This is Evelyn. After midnight, I tell the stories we don't say out loud. Quiet reflections about love, loneliness, and becoming yourself again. Listen softly. Because the truth is a heavy thing to carry alone. The grandfather clock in the foyer has a rhythmic, mechanical heartbeat. Thump-tick, thump-tick. It is a relentless sound. A reminder that time is a predator that eventually catches up with everyone. Tonight, it is the only thing truly alive in this house. Everything else, the furniture, the art, the man sleeping upstairs, it's all part of a museum of dead things. I am standing here, at the edge of a precipice I spent 10 long, silent years building. I look at the walls, covered in silk wallpaper imported from Florence. I remember the day the decorators arrived. Julian insisted on this specific shade of gold leaf molding. He said it gave the house pedigree. He was so desperate to look like he belonged to an old money lineage, to a history he never earned. But I've learned that gold doesn't make a man noble. It only makes him shiny. It only makes the rot underneath harder to see at first glance. I walk slowly toward the dining room. My heels are silent on the Persian rug, a rug that cost more than the car my father used to drive. I reach out and touch the edge of the mahogany table. It's cold, polished to such a high gloss that I can see the distorted reflection of my own face in the wood. I remember the dinner parties. Oh, the laughter. It always sounded like breaking glass to me. Sharp, brittle, and dangerous. I remember sitting at the head of this table, playing the role of the perfect hostess. I was a masterpiece of Victorian restraint. I smiled when I wanted to scream. I laughed at jokes that felt like insults. I remember pouring the Sancerre into crystal flutes, watching the bubbles rise while my own heart was being bled dry by a man who sat across from me, smiling, and yet didn't even know the color of my soul. He knew the price of everything but the value of nothing. He knew my dress size, my favorite vintage, and how I liked my tea, but he never knew the silence that was growing inside me like a tumor. To him, I was just another acquisition like the art on the walls, something to be displayed, maintained, and occasionally ignored. What is wealth, really? In this mansion, wealth isn't comfort. It is a weapon. It is a tool for erasure. It is the silence that buys a neighbor's discretion when the shouting gets too loud. It is the velvet curtain, thick and heavy, that hides the bruises on a marriage. The bruises that don't show up on the skin, but on the spirit. I walk into the kitchen. The air here smells of cold stone and expensive cleaning products. I see the silver tray I used today for Sarah's tea. It's still sitting there on the marble counter, abandoned. A single porcelain cup, delicate and fragile, stained with a lipstick mark that isn't mine. A shade of red that is too bright, too loud for this house. Julian's mistress. I wonder if she realized, as she sat in my garden and sipped that Earl Grey, that she was drinking the dregs of a dying empire. I wonder if she felt the bite of the cold silver spoon against her teeth, and realized it was the same calculated coldness Julian would eventually offer her once her novelty wore off. She thinks she has stolen something from me. She doesn't realize I've been trying to give it away for years. She is not my enemy. She is just the latest person to be fooled by the shine of Julian's gold. I leave the kitchen and move toward the grand staircase. The wood beneath the carpet feels solid, but I know better. I know where the floorboards creak. I know the secrets hidden in the crawlspaces. Each step I take is a memory I am trying to crush under the weight of my resolve. Here on the third step, Julian told me he loved me for the first time. He smelled of rain and ambition. There on the landing, he promised my father he would protect the family name with his life. Every word he ever spoke was a brick in the prison he built for me. And I, the fool, helped him lay the mortar. I reach the top floor. The air feels thinner here, as if the house itself is gasping for breath. The silence is heavier, pressing against my eardrums like deep water. I stop outside the master bedroom. Can hear it. Julian's breathing. Steady. Rhythmic. The breathing of a man who has no conscience to keep him awake. It is the breathing of a man who believes he has won the game, who thinks the pieces are still where he left them. He doesn't know that tonight the house is no longer his. He doesn't know that the very air he breathes into his lungs is a loan I am about to call in. He is sleeping in a bed of ghosts, and when he wakes up, he will find that the gold has turned to lead, and the wife he thought he owned has finally become a stranger. I turn away from the bedroom door. Julian's steady breathing follows me like a ghost as I walk down the long, shadowed hallway toward his study. The library. His sanctum. This room was once my father's pride. It's a room that smells of old paper, leather-bound history, and the faint, lingering scent of cedar. But since Julian took over, the air has changed. It smells of expensive scotch and the metallic tang of cold ambition. I push the heavy oak door open. Doesn't creak. Julian keeps everything well-oiled, everything functioning with a clinical, terrifying efficiency. I don't turn on the overhead lights. I don't want to see the room in its full, arrogant glory. Instead, I switch on the small green shaded lamp on the desk, the one my father used when he was calculating the shipping routes for Horizon. The pool of light it casts is small, intimate, and unforgiving. I sit in the high-backed leather chair. Julian's chair. It is too big for me, or perhaps I am finally too big for the role I was forced to play in it. I look at the dust motes dancing in the lamplight. Thousands of tiny, insignificant things, swirling in the void. That's what we were to him. Tiny, insignificant pieces of a larger puzzle. My eyes drift to the portrait of the lady in gray, on the far wall. She was my great-grandmother. She looks down at me with an expression that I used to think was sorrow, but tonight, I see it for what it truly is. Recognition. She too lived in a house of secrets. She too knew the weight of a name that felt like a shackle. I stand up and walk toward her. My fingers find the hidden latch behind the gilded frame. I remember my father showing me this when I was just a girl. "Evelyn," he had whispered, his breath smelling of peppermint and pipe tobacco. "A man's real life is never found in his pockets. It's found in what he hides when he thinks he's alone." At the time I thought he was talking about treasures, gold coins or old letters. I didn't realize he was giving me the key to my own survival. The safe door is heavy. It's a Victorian masterpiece of iron and steel, a box designed to survive fires and floods. But it wasn't designed to survive a wife who has spent a decade learning its rhythm. I spin the dial. Left, right, left again. The numbers are the date of Julian's first big win. The day he officially became a partner. He is so predictable in his vanity. Black. The mechanism disengages. The sound is deafening in the stillness of the house. I pull the door open and the smell hits me, the scent of cold metal and stagnant air. Inside, there are stacks of papers, deeds to properties I didn't know we owned, and a velvet box containing my mother's pearls. Julian kept them here, not out of respect, but as a trophy. A symbol of the lineage he managed to infiltrate. But I'm not here for the pearls. I'm here for the small black USB drive that sits in the corner like a poisonous spider. It's cold when I touch it. Feels heavier than it should. I take it back to the desk. My hands are not shaking anymore. The trembling stopped the moment I heard the safe click open. Now there is only a strange, crystalline clarity. I insert the drive into the laptop. The screen glows, a harsh blue light that carves deep shadows into the room. Wait. The little circle spins. Loading. Loading. Feels like a heartbeat. My heartbeat. The folders appear. There are hundreds of them. Thousands of files. Julian is meticulous. He kept records of every bribe, every redirected shipment, every consulting fee paid to people whose names I recognize from the headlines. But then I see it. A folder dated October 2019. The month the world ended. The month my father's car went over the edge of the Devil's Peak. Open it. My breath hitches in my throat. I see the subfolders, mechanical reports, insurance valuations, legacy transition. I open a file named Final Inspection. It's a scan of a document from the estate's mechanic. It's a warning. A clear, desperate warning. Brake lines compromised. Tampering suspected. Do not operate vehicle. It was sent to Julian's private server 3 days before the accident. Then, Find the reply. Julian's reply. He didn't just ignore the warning. He thanked the mechanic for his discretion. He authorized a payment from a shell company to ensure the original report was shredded. He watched my father, the man who gave him a job, a home, a daughter. He watched him climb into that car. He probably even held the door open for him. He probably told him to drive safe with a smile on his face, knowing that the mountain road would do the work for him. I stare at the screen. The blue light feels like it's burning into my retinas. I am looking at the digital footprint of a murder. Not a murder of passion, but a murder of convenience. A murder for a seat at a table. Julian didn't kill my father for the money. He killed him for the silence. Because my father had started to notice the discrepancies. He had started to realize that the man he had brought into his home was a parasite. And Julian couldn't let the host speak. I feel a strange sensation in my chest. It's not a heartbeat. It's the sound of 1,000 glass ornaments shattering at once. Every memory I had of the last 3 years. Julian comforting me at the funeral. Julian holding my hand as the casket was lowered. Julian taking care of the business so I could grieve. It's all being rewritten in real time. It wasn't comfort. It was a victory lap. He didn't just break my heart. He stole my mourning. He turned my grief into a tool for his own advancement. Quiet reflections. That's what I told you. But as I sit here in the cold glow of this laptop, the reflection I see in the screen isn't of a victim. It's of a judge. Julian thinks he's sleeping in a bed of gold. He doesn't realize he's sleeping in a tomb, and I am the one who is about to seal the door. The dining room is a cavern of shadows, lit only by the flickering tongues of 12 black candles. I spent 3 hours setting this stage. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted the silver to be so polished that Julian could see his own demise reflected in the spoons. I hear the front door open. His footsteps, arrogant, heavy, rhythmic, echo through the foyer. He's whistling. Cheerful tune. The tune of a man who just closed a deal, or perhaps, just left a hotel room. I sit at the head of the table, my spine a steel rod, my hands folded over the black silk of my dress. Sarah is there too, tucked away in the shadows of the velvet curtains. Her face a pale moon of terror. She is the witness I didn't want, but the one I needed. Julian enters the room. He stops. He sees the candles, the wine, the 3 place settings. He smiles, that crooked, charming smile that used to make my knees weak. Now it just makes my skin crawl. Evelyn. A celebration. I didn't realize we had an occasion, he says, tossing his coat onto a chair. He smells of expensive gin and a perfume that is too floral, too cheap to be mine. It's the smell of Sarah. Sit down, Julian, I say. My voice is a whisper, but it cuts through the air like a razor. We have much to discuss. I've been catching up on some light reading. He laughs. He actually laughs. He walks over to me, leaning down to kiss my cheek. I don't flinch. I let him touch me. His skin feels like a reptile's. Light reading. I didn't know you still had an interest in the business, darling. I thought you were too busy with your charities. The gossip. That's what he used to keep me in line. He would come home and tell me stories about the other wives in our circle. He told me that Eleanor was losing her mind, that Marcus was bankrupt, that everyone was whispering behind my back about how I couldn't keep a man's interest. He isolated me with the poison of he said, she said. He made me believe that without him I was a joke. Social pariah. A broken woman in a gilded cage. I pick up a file from the empty chair beside me. I slide it across the table toward him. Let's talk about Eleanor's whispers, Julian. Or rather, let's talk about yours. He looks at the folder. He doesn't open it at first. He pours himself a glass of wine. His movements fluid and calm. But I see it. The slight tremor in his pinky finger. The predator has caught the scent of the trap. What is this, Evelyn? Another one of your dramatic outbursts. His tone shifts. The charm is evaporating. replaced by the cold, hard edge of the man who killed my father. It's a maintenance report, Julian. From 2019. It's a ghost story. One that starts with a tampered brake line and ends with a mountain cliff. The silence that follows is so thick I can taste the copper in the air. Julian's face doesn't crumble. Hardens. He sets the wine glass down. Clink. The sound of a final bell. He leans across the table, his eyes turning into obsidian. "You've been digging," he whispers. "It's not a question. It's an accusation. I didn't have to dig far. You were so arrogant that you kept the receipts of your sins in the same safe where I keep my pearls." Suddenly, the chair screeches against the floor. Julian is on his feet. He moves faster than I expected. Before I can breathe, he is at my side. His hand, the hand that used to hold mine, reaches out and grips my jaw, forcing me to look up at him. His fingers dig into my skin, and for a second, I see the monster in full bloom. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" he hisses. His breath is hot against my face. "You think you can play detective in my house? You're nothing, Evelyn. You are a name on a marriage license that I can tear up whenever I want. Your father was a weak old man who didn't have the stomach for what it takes to stay on top. I did him a favor. I did this family a favor." He shakes my head slightly, his grip tightening until I feel the bones start to ache. "You will take these papers, you will go to the fireplace, and you will burn them. And then, you will apologize for this pathetic little theater." I look him directly in the eyes. I don't blink. I don't cry. "The papers on this table are copies, Julian." He freezes. "The originals are already with the district attorney. And the digital backups. They were sent to every board member of Horizon Shipping 5 minutes ago. Along with the photos of you and Sarah at the Alpine Lodge." The rage that flashes across his face is primal. He snarls, a sound I've never heard a human make, and he swings his hand. The blow hits me across the cheek. Pause for 4 seconds. My head snaps to the side. The taste of salt and iron fills my mouth. My ear is ringing, a high-pitched scream that matches the one coming from Sarah in the corner. I fall back against the chair, the black candles flickering wildly from the movement. I stay there for a moment, my face burning, my heart thumping against my ribs. I slowly turn my head back to him. I wipe a stray drop of blood from my lip with the back of my hand. Smile. "Is that all you've got, Julian? Because my father took a much harder hit than that." He looks at his own hand as if it belongs to someone else. The realization is finally sinking in. The mask hasn't just slipped. It has shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. He looks at Sarah, who is now backing away toward the door, her eyes wide with the realization that the hero she loved is just a common thug. "You're finished," I say, standing up. I feel the height of my ancestors behind me. "The gossip you used to destroy me. It's about to turn on you. Tomorrow, the name Julian Thorne will be synonymous with murderer. You won't be able to buy a cup of coffee in this city, let alone a seat at a board meeting." He tries to lung for me again, but the sound of sirens, distant but approaching, stops him in his tracks. I had timed it perfectly. The electronic files I sent contained a GPS ping to this house. "Get out of my house, Julian. Before the police help you out." He stands there, panting, looking like a cornered animal. The house, his fortress, his prize, is suddenly a cage. He looks at the wine, the candles, the blood on my lip. He realizes that in this final act, I wasn't the hostess. I was the executioner. Julian stands there, his chest heaving, his knuckles still white from the impact. But as the sirens grow louder in the distance, his rage shifts. It morphs into something even more pathetic. Possessiveness. Even now, losing everything, he can't stand the thought of losing control over me. "Who is he, Evelyn?" he asks, his voice cracking. He steps closer, smelling of desperation. "Is this about Thomas? Is that why you're doing this? Because your precious cousin looks at you with eyes that aren't exactly brotherly. I let out a soft, dry laugh. Thomas, my cousin. The only man in this social circle who ever treated me like a person and not a trophy. Julian's jealousy was always his greatest weakness, a poison he brewed himself and forced me to drink. Do you remember the summer at the Hamptons, Julian? Remember. I remember the way you cornered me in the garden because Thomas had spent 20 minutes laughing with me at the bar. You told me I was humiliating you. You told me that people were talking. But the only one talking was you, whispering into my ear that I was damaged goods that only you were kind enough to keep. You were so jealous of a ghost. You were jealous of the way Thomas remembered my father. You were jealous because he saw the bruises you thought you'd hidden with makeup and silk. I remember the night you threw that crystal decanter at the wall just because he'd sent me a bouquet of lilies for my birthday. Lilies, my father's favorite. You didn't see flowers. You saw a threat. You saw someone else appreciating the property you hadn't fully broken yet. Is he waiting for you, Evelyn? Is that the plan? You ruin me, and then you run to his arms. Julian's eyes are wild now. He's looking for a way to make me the villain. He needs me to be the unfaithful one, the liar, the betrayer. It's the only way his shattered ego can survive the night. I step toward him, ignoring the throbbing in my cheek where he struck me. I lean in close, so close I can see the broken capillaries in his eyes. Thomas isn't waiting for me, Julian. Thomas is the one who helped me find the private investigator. He was the one who tracked your offshore accounts while you were busy buying diamonds for Sarah. He didn't want my body. He wanted my justice. He saw what you were doing to the legacy of the man who practically raised him, and he chose blood over your crooked brotherhood. Julian's face turns a sickly shade of gray. The one man he thought he could intimidate, the one man he tried to alienate from me by spreading rumors of an incestuous obsession. That was the man who handed me the keys to the safe. You used him, Julian whispers, horrified. No, Julian. We used you. We let you think your jealousy was keeping me isolated. We let you think your control was absolute. While you were watching me, making sure I didn't smile too long at Thomas at the charity galas, I was watching your passwords. While you were checking my phone for messages from him, I was cloning your hard drive. I pick up a single black candle from the table. I hold it up between us. You were so worried about who might be taking your wife, that you forgot to check who was taking your empire. You spent 10 years watching the front door, Julian. But I was already inside the house. I was always inside. Sarah lets out a choked sob from the corner. She looks at us, two aristocrats in a burning room, and she finally sees the truth. There is no love here. There is only a hunt. And the fox just grew teeth. Julian reaches out, his hand trembling, trying to touch my hair. A last, desperate attempt at a romantic manipulation. Evelyn, please. We can fix this. Think of the scandal. Think of what this will do to your father's name. I recoil as if his touch were acid. My father's name is already stained with your shadow, Julian. Tonight I am the bleach. Tonight I am the fire. The blue and red lights are now reflecting off the library windows. The game of shame and gossip is over. The game of prison is about to begin. The funny thing is, Julian, Thomas did ask me one thing. He asked me if I'd be okay once you were gone. And do you know what I told him? I told him that for the first time in 10 years, I could finally breathe without permission. The sirens are no longer a distant threat. They are here. The blue and red lights pulses against the silk wallpaper, turning our ivory sanctuary into a crime scene. It's a strobe light effect, white, blue, red. It makes Julian look like a ghost in a flickering film. A silent movie where the villain has finally run out of lines. There is a heavy knock at the door. The sound of reality crashing into our 10-year delusion. Julian stands frozen, his hands still raised. His face a mask of sweating arrogance. He looks at me, then at the door, then at the folder on the table. He is calculating. Even now he is looking for a loophole. Bribe. Lie. A way to spin this. Evelyn, don't do this, he whispers. It's the first time I've heard him beg. It's a pathetic sound, like dry leaves skittering on a grave. Think of the headlines. Thorn and Thorn. We are the pillars of this city. If I go down, the legacy goes with me. I stand up slowly. I straighten my black dress, smoothing out the wrinkles he caused. I feel the sting on my cheek, but it feels like a badge of honor now. You aren't a thorn, Julian. You were just a guest who overstayed his welcome. The legacy doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the man you murdered. And tonight I'm taking it back. The door opens. 3 officers enter, their boots heavy on the Persian rug. The lead detective, a man with tired eyes who I've been meeting in secret for weeks, looks at me, then at the blood on my lip, then at Julian. Julian Thorne? The detective asks. Julian tries to stand tall. He tries to summon the CEO, the master of the universe. Officer, there's been a massive misunderstanding. My wife is. She's been going through a mental breakdown since her father's passing. She's prone to these delusions. He looks at the officers with such practiced sincerity that for a second, I almost admire his sociopathy. But then I point to the laptop. I point to the printed emails. I point to Sarah, who is now pointing her finger at him. Her voice trembling as she tells the officers about the threats he made to keep her quiet. He killed him, Sarah sobs. He told me he'd do the same to me if I ever looked at those files. The sound of the handcuffs. Chink clink. It's a small sound really. A-pitch. Precise. But to me it sounded like a symphony. It was the sound of the cage door finally swinging open. I watch as they pull his arms behind his back. I watch as the fabric of his $4,000 suit bunches up under the pressure of the steel. You're making a mistake. Julian screams as they lead him toward the hallway. He turns his head back to me. His face twisted in a snarl of pure, unadulterated hatred. You'll have nothing, Evelyn. Without me, you are a ghost in an empty house. No one will come to your parties. No one will say your name. I walk to the balcony as they lead him down the driveway. I see the neighbors, the prestigious families, the people Julian spent a decade trying to impress. They are all on their lawns. They have their phones out. They are witnessing the fall of the great Julian Thorne. The gossip mill is already turning. By tomorrow morning, he won't be a pillar of the community. He will be a cautionary tale. I stay on the balcony until the last siren fades into the distance. The silence returns to the mansion, but it's a different kind of silence. It's not the heavy, suffocating silence of secrets. It's the light, airy silence of a vacuum. I walk back into the library. I pick up a glass of wine, the one Julian didn't get to finish. I walk over to the fireplace. I take the black candles one by one, and I drop them into the embers. I watch the flames grow. I watch the black wax melt into the fire. This is Evelyn. The night is almost over. Quiet reflections about love. I used to think love was a sanctuary. Now I know it can be a battlefield. Loneliness. I spent 10 years lonely in a room full of people. Tonight, I am alone in an empty house. And for the first time I don't feel lonely at all. Feel complete. Becoming yourself again. That's the hardest part, isn't it? Stripping away the layers of who people told you to be. The submissive wife. The grieving daughter. The silent partner. I've burned those layers away tonight. What's left is someone I haven't seen in a very long time. Someone my father would recognize. I walk to the window and watch the first gray light of dawn touch the horizon. The Project Horizon, that Julian used to kill my father. It's a real horizon now. New day. New story. Julian is in a cell. Sarah is a memory. And I am the master of this house. Thank you for staying with me after midnight. For listening to the things we don't say out loud. Go now. The sun is coming up and the shadows are retreating. But remember, the dark always returns. And when it does, I'll be here to tell you another story. Listen softly. Sleep well. This was Evelyn.